NASA has confirmed the impossible. The James Webb Space Telescope has captured an image that, according to scientists themselves, cannot exist within the known laws of physics. On the night of October 6–7, during a routine observation of a patch of sky in the direction of the constellation Auriga, the telescope unexpectedly detected an anomalous light response. First, a brief pulse, then a stable image. The identification system located the source of the reflected signal at coordinates that made the operators freeze. The coordinates matched the position of the Earth. Yes, you heard right. The James Webb Telescope, capable of peering 13 billion years into the past, suddenly saw us. Not a reflection of sunlight, not a glare, not system noise, but a complete visual image formed from spectral data. But what appeared on the monitor left the engineers literally speechless. The Earth on the monitor was there, but not the one we know. The continents looked different. The outline of South America was shifted to the east. Antarctica was ice-free, and where the Pacific Ocean now lies, landforms could be discerned, as if from another era. When specialists used infrared analysis, it became clear. The object's atmosphere is rich in oxygen, with nitrogen and water vapor present. These parameters are identical to those of modern Earth. But something was wrong with the biological data. The heat spots detected by the sensors resembled fires, unevenly scattered across the planet's surface. And among these spots, in the region of today's East Africa, the telescope detected movement. At first, they thought it was an algorithm error. But after 3 checks in the data processing lab at the Goddard Center, they confirmed it. The image was real. The details are striking. Against the backdrop of lakes and plains, groups of human-like creatures are visible. One of them, if you zoom in, stands on the shoreline, looking directly into the lens. Just think about it. This picture was taken by a telescope located beyond the moon's orbit, pointed into the depths of space. And it sees a person, but a man who, according to calculations, lived 9,000 years ago. Panic broke out in the Observation Control Center. Telemetry became choppy. The data stream suddenly stopped at frame 215B. 10 seconds later, silence. Operators tried to restart the communication channel, but a red line appeared on the web panel. Transmission locked by external source. At first we thought it was a glitch, a synchronization error. But a few minutes later, the same text appeared on the internal backup system. This is impossible. Webb has no outside access. There's no way anyone other than NASA could have interfered with the onboard stream. 42 minutes after the incident, all NASA internal servers went offline. A message appeared on the official website. Software update, scheduled maintenance. But this item is missing from the morning reports. No one confirmed any updates. And yet something managed to leak. A visualization lab employee, who wished to remain anonymous, posted a photo to a private forum, claiming it was from that very episode. It shows a fog-shrouded coastline. In the background is a figure resembling a human, and if you increase the contrast, you can discern something larger. The silhouette seems to raise its hand, a gesture directed directly at the observer, at us. We thought we were looking into the universe's past, one analyst said, but it seemed to be looking back. Later, another message appeared, a short one, from an IP address linked to the Goddard Center. No name, no signature, just one sentence. We opened the window, and someone from inside responded. NASA hasn't commented since. Webb mission officials refuse to speak to the press. Internal phones are disconnected. Scientists working the night shift haven't responded. Media outlets around the world are already buzzing. The Webb telescope captured a photograph of the Earth of the past. But those who saw the image with their own eyes claim it's more than just an image. It's a two-way observation. It was as if someone or something out there, on the other side of time, had noticed us. And now comes the strangest part. 6 hours after the incident, telemetry was restored. All systems were functioning normally. Only one file remained inaccessible, that same frame labeled 214B. The file itself is just a black background. But if you listen closely to the spectral noise, you'll notice a sound at the 27-second mark. It's barely audible, almost a whisper. And these words, "We see you." What was that? An illusion? An analysis error? Or a signal? While scientists remain silent, the world holds its breath. But what followed turned everything upside down. A few hours after the telescope's connection was restored, a file labeled JWST-214B RAW appeared online. It remained publicly accessible for just 12 minutes before being deleted. But that was enough. Dozens of users managed to save a copy. This was the beginning of what would later be called the Webb incident. At first glance, it's just noise, unclear pixels, a glitch in the spectral data transmission. But one user, a Toronto programmer, applied a decoding filter based on NASA's Deep Space Standard and got an image. Earth. Earth again. Only time. Different. The oceans are gray, the sky is orange, and in the upper left corner a flash of light, like a bolt of lightning frozen in eternity. Meanwhile, leaks began appearing in the news. Reuters cited an internal NASA report passed on to employees named Matthew Kramer. The document, dated October 7th, contained excerpts from a transcript of the radio traffic accompanying the very same image. Among other things, a sequence of numbers. 3. U. 1 1 2 3 5 8 13. At first, they thought it was a coincidence, but one of the engineers recognized the sequence as a Fibonacci sequence, encoded in pulsating intervals. There was a rhythm within the data, as if someone wasn't just sending a signal, but counting. Just think about it. A telescope designed to observe ancient galaxies receives a signal that carries a mathematical structure, not chaos, and order. And this order coincides with the fundamental principles of biological systems, growth patterns, even the DNA code. A coincidence or an attempt at communication. A message from a representative of the European Space Agency later appeared. He claimed that ESO does not have access to 214B data, and that NASA has officially suspended scientific exchange pending verification. However, a different version has circulated through unofficial channels. The report has already been forwarded to the Pentagon. The document allegedly states that the detected object is not a reflection or a temporal artifact, but a quantum observation loop caused by the self-reference of the photon flux. Simply put, the telescope peered so deeply that it saw the very moment of observation. It sounds crazy, but even stranger events occurred at the Goddard Center. 3 telemetry department employees abruptly left their shift, declaring they would not participate in an experiment that could impact the future. One of them later wrote on his personal blog, "If we truly saw the past, then the past saw us. And now it knows where to look." This recording disappeared within 24 hours. Meanwhile, footage allegedly taken from a backup began appearing online. One of them shows a fragment of a continent resembling Africa. But over the image are tiny lines of light, crisscrossing the planet like a web. Some users claimed the lines form a geometric pattern resembling eyes. Others said it was simply filtering. But when one enthusiast ran the image through spectral analysis software, A clear, audible response emerged at 70, 80, and 100 Hz, the Schumann resonance frequency, which coincides with the oscillation frequency of the Earth's ionosphere. First a hum, then a voice, a woman's voice, barely audible, as if through thick water. Do you hear that? After that, no one saw that file again. NASA's official version. The data is erroneous. The telescope responded to internal noise from the NIRCam spectrograph. However, a copy of the report published on an astronomy forum contains a note from engineer Lev Connor. NIRCam can't generate such structures. It's not noise, it's an answer. Meanwhile, at the press conference, the agency's representative avoided direct answers when a journalist asked, "Do you confirm that Webb captured an image of Earth?" The microphone cut out. The recording ended exactly 18 seconds in. Half an hour later, the video was replaced with a new one, without further question. The situation became so tense that independent laboratories stepped in. Astrophysicists from MIT and the University of Tokyo conducted their own analysis of the resulting frequencies. And here's what they found. The timestamp of the original signal corresponds not to the current moment, but to a time 9,937 years in the past. The difference between the photon's quantum phases is so precise that the error probability is less than 1/1000,000,000%. So, the Webb did indeed detect light emanating from Neolithic Earth. But how? At such a distance, it's impossible to obtain a reflected signal with such resolution. The photon simply couldn't have returned. Scientists are stumped. The theory of mirror reflection through gravitational lensing doesn't explain what's happening. One researcher has put forward a hypothesis. The telescope encountered the phenomenon of temporal resonant inversion, a region where space and time are looped. If this is true, then the Webb has become a window into the past. But even this doesn't explain the last fact. In the final seconds of the signal, just before the transmission ended, spectral analysis detected a repeating pulse sequence. It lasted 12 seconds. After decoding, it was converted into binary code, and the result stunned even the skeptics. The code formed the word Earth. No noise, no interference. A clear, logical sequence. Scientists have understood. This is not an instrumental error. Something really did happen. The scientists' first comments appeared not at press conferences, but in personal blogs, in short posts that then disappeared one by one. Michio Kaku, known for his restraint, wrote just 3 words: "This shouldn't be happening." An hour later, the post was deleted. The next day, CNBC journalists noticed that Elon Musk had unexpectedly changed his Instagram header to read X instead of the SpaceX logo. An image of a nebula appeared, along with the caption, "We were seen." Many took it as a joke, but that evening Musk gave a closed-door interview to a television channel, which was leaked online. In it, he spoke quietly, pausing between pauses. "We thought the Webb was looking where no one was, but maybe someone was there all along, and maybe they're looking at us now." The phrase instantly went viral. The internet was filled with conspiracy theories. But behind the scenes at scientific centers, fear, not excitement, reigned. A leak from the Houston Control Center revealed the situation. NASA sent an urgent message to the EBA communications frequency, ordering complete spectral isolation. This means the telescope is prohibited from receiving or sending any signals other than control commands. But according to engineer Ad Malavella, the isolation didn't work. 43 minutes after the lockdown, the telescope spontaneously activated the return transmission channel, and the log files displayed the message, "Listening." At the same time, the Japanese Subaru station detected a narrowband pulse with the exact same frequency as the EBA transmission. This means the telescope responded without human intervention. Scientists debated whether the EcoFinder automated system could have mistakenly activated the relay. But archival recordings showed this. The EcoFinder module was physically disconnected a month ago during a firmware update. And then the strangest thing happened. At the University of Cambridge, astrophysicist Catherine Lee's group processed the received signals. Within the pulses, they found a repeating structure, not just a mathematical code, but an acoustic pattern resembling a human voice. After filtering out the frequency noise and converting it to audio, a recording emerged. First a noise, a crackling sound, then a low tone reminiscent of breathing, and then the distinct words, "We remember." These two words were recorded in a whisper, but the recording revealed human form. The voice was female, approximately 40 years old, speaking English. Only the timbre was strange, as if the sound had traveled through kilometers of water. "That's impossible," Lee said in an interview with the BBC. "There can't be a voice. Webb doesn't have a microphone. But this signal is clearly synthesized, as if someone were using the light beam itself to speak." Meanwhile, the Pentagon launched its own investigation. A report, leaked to the media under a restricted classification, stated that the signal contained a behavioral pattern indicating meaningful interaction. Simply put, someone or something was responding to our observations. Elon Musk said bluntly in another interview, "If this is consciousness, it's older than anything we know. It sees us through time." And perhaps it is ourselves. This phrase rocked the scientific community. The idea of a reflected humanity, frozen in quantum resonance, seemed insane. But MIT confirmed, "The frequencies of the pulses obtained by Webb repeat every 27 hours, strictly in sync with the rotation of the Earth." The signal seems to follow us, reflecting from the same spot where the telescope is pointed. Some scientists have begun to talk about the self-awareness of matter. The idea that the universe itself is capable of remembering and reproducing moments of existence. Others suggested the telescope had pierced the temporal membrane, creating a window through which the past and present exchanged information. But to most, this sounded like science gone mad. Soon, the first witnesses emerged. Italian amateur astronomer Giancarlo Mezzi claimed that while synchronizing his telescope with NASA's open data, he received a batch of images containing something not found in the official database. The images showed human faces, hundreds, thousands of them, as if someone were filming us from a distance. He wrote, "They observe us as we, ancient stars." The next day, his account disappeared. NASA psychologists reported a mass emotional breakdown among mission personnel. Insomnia, obsessive dreams, the feeling that someone is watching from within your consciousness. One internal report explicitly states that some specialists are convinced the signal didn't come to us, but rather awakened within us. But Musk wasn't the only one who knew the truth. One man already tried to warn the world. His name surfaced in an old Goddard archive among the forgotten files of the Deep Reflection Project. The project was shut down 10 years ago. And it was its creator who first said, "If James Webb looks far enough, he won't see stars. He'll see a mirror." At first, it seemed like a coincidence. The telescope suddenly began drifting off course, even though the stabilizing gyroscopes were working perfectly. 27 minutes after the deflection began, Webb itself redirected the mirror to the point where the signal was first detected. Control Center assumed this was a software glitch. But when engineers attempted to restore control of the telescope, the system failed. The line, "Command not accepted," appeared on the screen. Then a new one appeared, as if in response to, "Let it stay." No one could figure out where it came from. The telescope doesn't have a built-in text interface. It's impossible. So, the specialists decided to reset the communication channel. The image faded for a few seconds, then reappeared. Only this time, it wasn't stars. Thin lines formed against the black background, forming a figure resembling a human face. The circuits pulsed at a frequency of 7 to 70 and 30 hertz, the same frequency at which the mysterious voice had sounded earlier. One of the operators screamed when the figure opened its eyes. Not literally, just a flash of light, but enough to make your heart sink. "Just think about it," one witness said later. "The telescope didn't just look, it saw." That same night, at 2:14 a.m. UTC, an emergency report arrived from the ESA Backup Center in Darmstadt. Archived files began disappearing from Webb's memory. Not copied, not moved, just vanished. Researchers noted that not only the latest images were being deleted, but also old calibration tests, even data created before the mission's launch. It was as if someone was deliberately erasing traces of their existence. NASA declared an internal quarantine, and all servers containing Webby data were taken offline. But it didn't help. 6 hours later, the leak reached the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Files opened and instantly vanished into nothingness, leaving only a single line of metadata. Look back, was this an error? An engineer's comment? Or a message from the signal source itself? When one of the scientists decided to follow the literal order, look back, and entered a command to rotate the optics, the telescope changed orientation, pointing directly at the sun. The system should have automatically blocked this maneuver to prevent the mirrors from overheating. But the blocking mechanism failed. A blinding glow appeared on the operator's screen, and the connection was lost. Since then, the image hasn't been restored, only the telemetry data continued to flow. First, the usual parameters, then a sequence of numbers. The same Fibonacci sequence, but now in reverse order. 13, 8, 5, 3, 2, 1, and then 0 again. After 0, silence. 5 seconds, nothing. And then a pulse of such power that it burned out the receiver antennas at the Canberra Observatory. The mission's technical director, Dr. Amelia Clark, later reported that at the moment of the flash, the room became strangely quiet. The monitors flickered, and for 3 seconds, every clock in the room showed the same time. No one could explain this phenomenon. And then people started experiencing strange behavior. Several employees reported seeing the same face flickering on the screen in their dreams. One engineer claimed it spoke his name. Another said he heard a woman whispering behind him as he left the lab. At first, they thought it was stress or hallucinations. But soon, similar reports began coming in from other countries. Amateur astronomers tuning into Webb's frequency received a strange signal. Not an image, not a sound, but pulses mimicking a person's resting heart rate. 72 beats per minute, and at 21 seconds, a pause, followed by one long, drawn-out pulse like a breath. Why are the authorities silent? Why did all the sources suddenly go silent? A day after the incident, the NASA, ESA, and SpaceX websites were simultaneously unavailable. The news was silent. Television broadcasts showed nothing but recordings of old briefings. It felt as if time stood still. Only users who had previously saved copies of the signals continued to exchange them in closed forums. One such user, going by the name Eternum, published a short video. It shows a fragment of a signal, but converted into a visual spectrum. First, it's just gray noise, then text, seemingly etched in light, "We heard you," and immediately after that the screen goes black. Those who managed to download the video claim that when played, it changes the system clock, rewinding it by 7 seconds. No one dared to officially verify this. When scientists attempted to send a response signal, a short message with Earth's coordinates and a greeting code, nothing happened. The telescope didn't respond. But at the 7SV8033 frequency, GECs around the world began detecting a faint resonance, uniform and synchronous, as if the planet itself were responding. 2 hours after the signal was sent, data that shouldn't have appeared at all deep space network stations. No label, no signature, just a single packet containing an image. It was only partially decrypted. There was Earth, but not today's. It looked empty, without lights, without clouds. Only the outlines of the continents and a strange glow in the center, resembling a human pupil. When the scientists attempted to send a return signal, everything changed. 3 days after the signal disappeared, communication with the telescope was officially declared unavailable. NASA's official documentation stated dryly, "Loss of communication due to unknown interference." But those who were in the control center know what happened. They saw the screen at the moment the connection supposedly broke. It wasn't darkness, it was an image. A light appeared against the black background, even white, pulsating like breath. It didn't belong to a star, wasn't a reflection of the sun's rays. It was something else, something uniform and conscious. The light seemed to match the heartbeat of the observer. Each person's heart pulsed differently. Then contours began to emerge within it. The Earth. But it wasn't a blue sphere, but a dim one, as if burned from the inside. Around it was a thin ring, not a satellite or a field, but like the trace of something passing through the atmosphere. A word appeared on the screen in English, not typed, but as if drawn by the very fabric of light. Stop. After that, the screen went dark, and the telemetry reset. At that very moment, electromagnetic bursts began to be detected across the planet on frequency 7 ISA-IS 73 GEC, the same frequency that accompanied the first signal. Radio stations picked it up, even with their antennas turned off. Servers offline recorded a background noise, as if someone was knocking from within. The next morning, news channels aired identical news bulletins. No logos, no announcers, just text on a black background. NASA advises that observations have been suspended, the threat has not been confirmed, and we ask that you remain calm. But the voiceover, if you listened closely, sounded not quite human, with a barely perceptible echo, as if the words were spoken not from the studio, but from inside the receiver. Meanwhile, residents of several countries reported strange phenomena. Streetlights turning off in sync, shadows moving against the light source, clocks showing the same time, 00000000. Videos disappeared from cloud storage, and photographs taken that night turned out to be blank. No people, no buildings, only a black horizon. Scientists who had saved copies of the telescope's raw data struggled to decipher the final sequence. It turned out it wasn't random. These weren't just numbers, they were timestamps, but not in Earth's format. Each one indicated a moment that hadn't yet arrived. The final date was October 8, 2025, 00000000000000 UTC. Today is precisely that date. At 11:40 p.m., communications with satellites began to be interrupted. Short radio bursts appeared in the atmosphere, undetected by any radar. Everything points to a repeat pulse, the same one that knocked out the telescope's power. The only difference is that this time it's coming from us, not toward us. It looks like the signal was reflected. The Earth now radiates what it once received. Only no one knows to whom this response is directed, or to whom. The last engineer remaining in the control center managed to send a short message to a closed server. Just one sentence. We weren't supposed to watch. Since then, the center has been empty.